Itch it up, my selector.
Due to some violent content, parental discretion is advised.
I know you gonna dig this.
Happy Saturday, everyone. This is another edition of Punchlines, of course. This is Maestro Amilcar, also known as Maestro, also known as Amilcar, with my main man, my brother from another up in Boston, Mr. Joe Habib, Ringside Reporter Live. Make sure you hit that like button when you get in here. Hit the subscribe button. If you're like me, sometimes you don't always get the notifications to all of Joe's shows and his lives. So make sure you hit that notification bell as well. And of course, you have to tune in every Sunday night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. late night boxing with Joe and his co-host Eric Lorda every Sunday on the flagship show on this channel. With all that being said, we've got a great back-to-back show for you guys. First hour here, second show hour on my channel. We're going to be getting into the big news this week, okay? Dana White teaming up with Turki Al-Sheikh, as many of people call him, His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, teaming up for a boxing league. Now, this has made some waves. There are people who seem to think it's a great idea. There are other people, think of one right now, Paulie Malignaggi, who thinks that it's a horrible idea. We're going to hear what Mr. Joe Habib has to say about this. Joe, the floor is yours. Go for it.
Wow, there's so much to unpack here. Let's address Paulie Malignaggi first, right? Because all of this righteous indignation in a sport like boxing, which lost the moral high ground decades ago, right? Since the beginning of time, this sport has had a black cloud. It's been walking around wearing a black eye that to this day has never been erased. So let's talk about Paulie Malignaggi. This was a guy who was openly critical of PBC, right? Said horrible things about Al Heyman and how he was able to politicize the sport and how he was corrupting the sport. And then, as soon as he got offered a deal by Al Heyman, he jumped right at it and he switched sides. So his logic was, can't beat him, well, I'm going to join him. So let's talk about him calling Dana White a scumbag and saying how horrible he is for the sport. And I don't even think this is more or less him being objective. I don't think he's honestly really being critical of the business model of UFC. I think there's more of a personal thing for him, because if you remember when he was working with Conor McGregor, right, and sparring with him and helping him out, he was highly critical of Dana White, who publicized that and used that sparring footage and put that little clip out there in an attempt to help promote Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather. So right then and there, he's had this bone to pick with Dana White. So for me, this really isn't him being totally fully critical of just the business model. This is more of a personal thing between him and Dana White, right? So once again, in my opinion, boxing doesn't have the moral high ground here. There's no barrier to entry, right? What Dana White and Turki Al-Sheikh seem to be doing is something that seems quite similar to what is being done in MMA with the PFL, the Professional Fight League. And just like the UFC has the PFL to compete with, they also have one championship to compete with. You can say all you want about UFC, but the fighters still have a choice on what organization they want to fight in, and it's up to them to determine, what contracts they sign and what they do moving forward with their own business career. So if you sign a contract, you have to fulfill that contract. And then if you go back and you want to be critical of that contract later, or if you feel that that contract was not fulfilled, then you take legal action and you do what you have to do. But this whole thing about this righteous indignation and this outrage about Dana White and the UFC, I'll repeat and I'll say it again, boxing does not have the moral high ground.
Why don't we do this, Joe? Why don't we play a little bit of Paulie, and then I'll let you respond point by point to Paulie's criticism of what he sees as something negative that's occurring in the sport. Let's have a look. Let's have a listen. This is Paulie Malignaggi, courtesy of Paulie TV, Paulie Malignaggi's YouTube channel. Let's go. Let me got to raise the volume on this one. Here we go.
You know what I'm thinking, guys? I'm thinking, because you guys left me some comments yesterday. They got me thinking on the Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White collaboration, unifying to try to create that promotional company. A couple of you sent me some comments, and I looked into it, that's saying that they were trying to do away with the Ali Act. I thought that was a little bit of an exaggeration. But then I saw a few different comments that you wrote, so I said, nah, it's not just one person saying this. There's too many people that have mentioned this, that these guys want to get rid of the Ali Act. There might be something to this. So I started looking into it. I started digging into it, and I found an article. I think it was from CBSSports.net or something like that, where yeah, man, they're looking to remove the Ali Act. I think it was this guy, who's the guy from Endeavor, who's kind of partnering up with, who Dana White's partnered up with. And obviously Turki Al-Sheikh he has the money, but he does what they say. But yeah, he was actually talking bad about the Ali Act, saying, we're gonna have to maybe try to do away with it. How do you talk about doing away with the Ali Act? This is exactly what I was talking about yesterday when I said I don't trust this guy, I don't trust these people, and what they're doing. Like, first of all, Dana is known as a shyster to begin with a bad reputation for the most part. Yeah, okay, he's had the success in the UFC with other people's money, but he's not a good reputation with the fighters. Like I said.
Joe, it looks like you disagree with that statement. I actually agree with that statement. So I don't know what you're disagreeing with on that one, but go for it. You look a little bit perturbed by what Paulie just had to say about Dana White. Maybe it's because he's from Boston and you're from Boston. You explain it, because up to this point, I don't know. I'm kind of agreeing with Paulie.
Well, these are the same criticisms that were being thrown at Al Heyman about the conflict of interest that he has with fighters. And when has the Muhammad Ali Act ever truly fully been enforced? Right? We've never seen anyone cite the Muhammad Ali Act in a lawsuit. We did one time with De La Hoya and Top Rank when they sued PBC. But guess what happened? They lost that lawsuit, right?
Well, I'm going to tell you here on camera what I told you over the phone. The Ali Act is enforced literally every time a fighter receives financial disclosure from the promoter through the state commission. That's the enforcement of the Ali Act right there.
That's when a fighter,
it's still a part of the Ali Act.
What about the other things that
it's still enforced? A part of the Ali Act, brother. It's still a part of it. Okay. If it wasn't for the Ali Act, there'd be no reason for the promoter to have to do any kind of financial disclosure with the fighter at all. It's, Joe, I'm paying you $2,000. Shut the hell up. That's your purse. Fine. Oh, but promoter, how much did you make? None of your business. That's what you're getting, $2,000.
So when you have Al Heyman, quote unquote, acting as an advisor,
yep,
but being actually a quasi promoter, are you going to sit here and tell me that that's not a conflict of interest and that isn't a violation of the Muhammad Ali Act?
Well, the Muhammad Ali Act, my understanding of it is that it prohibits a fight promoter also being a fight manager, right? So that would prohibit Al Heyman from being a professional fight manager who's essentially negotiating contracts with himself. So he's acting as both the fighter's promoter and the fighter's management, representative. Because those two positions should be kind of,
Is it a conflict of interest? Yes or no?
Those two separate positions should be in conflict, right?
Is there a conflict of interest? What's going on right now between Al Heyman and his fighters? And
the issue is that in the various state commissions across the United States, and again, for those of you who are watching in the UK, here in the United States, the commissions are run by the state governments, right? They're not run by an independent, non-governmental organization like the British Boxing Board of Control. So in the United States, it's run by the government, right? Al Heyman's not a fight promoter in any jurisdiction in the United States, and he's also not a manager in any jurisdiction in the United States. I believe he's an advisor, and what he's done is he's worked with promoters in the past, guys like Lou DiBella. Currently, he works principally with Tom Brown from Tom Brown Promotions. So he's kind of found a loophole there, but I don't really think he's in violation of the letter of the law of the Ali Act. But go for it.
Well, is Dana White in violation of the Ali Act technically? I mean,
no, because
the
Ali Act does it. He is, but he isn't.
No, he's not. He
is, but he isn't. So if he was running the UFC under the Ali Act, he'd be in violation of it. But the Ali Act doesn't cover the sport of MMA. So for that reason, he's gotten out, kind of because of a loophole.
Well, let's speak hypothetically here.
Yeah.
If the Ali Act was applied to the UFC, where does Dana White fall in conflict with the Muhammad Ali Act?
Okay,
he has a promoter's license, but he doesn't have a managerial license.
This is a very good question. So I actually sent this to you, Joe, in Telegram. I'm gonna read the Ali Act, what it covers for the people here, and then we'll go back to Paulie. This is a very interesting and important side discussion. So, the Ali Act, formerly known as the Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act, is a United States federal law enacted in 2000. It aims to protect the rights and welfare of boxers by promoting transparency and fairness in the boxing industry. Here are the key provisions and objectives of the Ali Act. Number 1, disclosure requirements. The act requires promoters to disclose all financial details of a fight to the boxers, including the purse payments and any other compensation. This helps ensure that boxers are fully informed about the financial aspects of their bout. So UFC doesn't do that. Number 2, ranking transparency. It mandates that sanctioning organizations provide clear and objective criteria for their rankings of boxers. This is intended to prevent manipulation and ensure that rankings are based on merit. I don't know enough about the UFC to know if they do that because they are their own sanctioning ranking organization. Number 3, prohibition of coercive contracts. The act prohibits coercive contracts that force boxers to agree to terms that are unfair or exploitative. This includes preventing promoters from having undue control over a boxer's career. You speak to MMA guys who've been in the UFC, Francis Ngannou and many others who've given interviews, they'd say that UFC violates that all the time.
So do boxers.
Health and safety. Number 4, while not its primary focus, the act also emphasizes the importance of health and safety standards for boxers, including the requirements for proper medical examination and insurance coverages. I'm going to go on a limb and say that UFC probably does that. Number 5, sanctioning organizations. The act regulates the conduct of sanctioning organizations to prevent conflict of interest and ensure that they operate in a fair and transparent manner. I don't know if you can be. I think the act prohibits being a sanctioning organization, which the UFC is, and a promoter at the same time, which the UFC is, and doing the rankings, which the UFC does. So I think they'd be in violation of it for that. Last one, and this is important, and this is what you make a great point of all the time, the issue of enforcement. Number 6, enforcement and penalties. The act provides for enforcement and mechanisms and penalties for violations, including fines and other sanctions against promoters and sanctioning organizations that fail to comply with the law. So the question is, has that happened in boxing? Answer, I don't know. Has it happened in boxing? Have they enforced it? I honestly don't know. Chat, help us out. We've got a very educated chat here. Give us your thoughts, Paul, Joe, and then right back to Paulie. Go for it.
All the things you mentioned, right? Some fighters have complained about those things with the UFC, but others have said that that isn't occurring. Just like in boxing, some fighters say things are going, that contracts have not been fulfilled with promoters, and sanctioning bodies have been sued, promoters have been sued. So it's all about enforcement. And you could go down the line of fighters in boxing who've had the same issues with promoters, because Paulie's had issues with promoters. He complained about Lou DiBella before. He complained about Golden Boy before. And now he ended up with PBC at the end to finish off his career. So Top Rank has been sued before because what did they do? They were paying the IBF for rankings, and they admitted it. That's a violation of the Muhammad Ali Act, right? So we can go down the list of violate all those things you mentioned where boxing has done
Sorry,
the same
Joe,
thing.
go back for a second. What was a violation of the Ali Act? I missed that part. I was reading a comment. Sorry.
When Bob Arum paid the IBF, and it's also been documented that Don King was paying the WBC.
When did Bob Arum pay the IBF?
You didn't hear that the whole lawsuit that they had, and Bob Arum admitted to?
Yeah, I know, but I just want you to give me a rough date when that happened.
With
What
Bob
year?
Lee?
What year?
We have to Google that.
I
That
mean,
was
I
probably in the
go on
2000s.
record as saying that it's before the year 2000. You can't be in.
I don't think so. I don't
You
think
sure?
so.
You wasn't before 2000?
Because that Ali Act went into effect 1999.
It said 2000 on what according to my
I read
research.
1999. Bob Lee
Okay.
rankings, Top Rank.
While you're doing that, let's go back to Paulie for a little bit more while you're looking that up.
That I've never seen a fighter actually compliment him personally to me. I've only seen them talk bad about him or not talk about him at all. Guys that have worked with him and have been under contract with him. So I don't know, man. It's kind of been really something that really made me think a lot. You know, it had me thinking. I'm gonna go outside here. There's this music playing in the background in the hotel. But you know, my question is this here. What gets me thinking is, okay, the Ali Act, like I said, I'm talking about, I'm worried about the Shyster stuff, especially just because Dana's involved. Now you're talking about removing the Ali Act.
We went from Kelly Clarkson in the background to Wind in the background. So have you pulled it up, Joe?
Yeah, and it says here, this was August of 2000. It says, ex-president found guilty of 6 counts, 38 counts, of New Jersey racketeering trial.
Right.
Basically.
So likely before they started enforcing the Ali Act.
No, because
it's around
2000.
it's around the time.
Yeah.
It's around the time.
Yeah.
But do we have
so
any
again,
yeah.
WBC did the same, has been doing the same, has been accused of the same things. So we can't take the moral high ground here because the boxing has done a lot of crooked shit over the years. So, and Paulie Malignaggi has worked with a lot of unsavory, crooked people in his lifetime. So to sit here and just point the finger at Dana White, just like they were doing the same thing to Don King back in the day as him being this horrible person, when promoters over the years have not always, but for the most part, been fucking fighters for years. So to come out and just say that Dana White is this devil and boxing is full of angels, I think it's very, very disingenuous. You know, so there's a lot of shady things going on right now. And again, even Devin Haney was saying he was getting screwed over by Golden Boy with the pay-per-view numbers in his fight with Ryan Garcia. So there's always going to be accusations made. There's always going to be promoters getting sued. There's always going to be
Let me ask you this.
The WBC had to file for bankruptcy because they lost a lawsuit.
Yeah. They lost the lawsuit because essentially they stripped a fighter and gave his title to Roy Jones Jr. But here's the question I have. Do you think that the Ali Act is a good thing? Or is it just that you think it's not being enforced? Because I think it's good
toothless.
that they have the Ali Act. I just think it needs to be enforced. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a toothless act. It's a toothless law because it's never used.
So we should be done with it.
I'm agnostic to it, and I'll tell you why. Because whether we have it or not, it's not being used. It's not being enforced.
What about the financial disclosures for fighters? You don't think that's a good thing?
You and I have a disagreement with that because Eddie Hearn has you hear promoters like Top Rank and Bob Arum, and you hear Eddie Hearn say that we've always disclosed information, and then you hear people like Adrian Broner who's saying that PBC's not telling them everything that's going on. Like he's been highly critical of Al Heyman and saying he's not giving him all the financial information. So you could say that it's being done in boxing, but there are fighters who are saying it's not being done. So it's all about
Are there any
enforcement.
boxers out there claiming that they're getting between 13 and 15% of the revenue for fights? Because thanks to the Kung Lee lawsuit of the UFC, we know that's what they're paying their fighters.
And how many times have fighters in
13 to
boxing
50%.
And how many times have fighters in boxing sued promoters for not having their contracts fulfilled according to what they believe it should have been? So again, you have the right to sue anybody, right? And if you feel as though something is not being fulfilled to you, then you have the right to sue. So one question.
What if instead of going out and hiring lawyers to go do private lawsuits that might cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Well, Kung Lee had to hire lawyers. Go ahead.
Right. Well, why isn't it a better thing just to have a law on the books and to press the government to go file charges and pursue a legal case for violating the law? If I'm a fighter, I don't want to go into my pocket for legal fees. I want the government to go pursue this.
Didn't Lamont Roach just have to go into his pocket?
In the interest of the sport.
Didn't Lamont Roach just have to go into his pocket?
Yeah, but that wasn't about a violation of the Ali Act. That wasn't about him not getting financial disclosures.
Didn't Top Rank and Golden Boy have to go in their pockets when they sued when they filed a lawsuit against Al Heyman?
Again, you're talking about a promoter suing another promoter. I'm talking about a fighter not wanting to have to go into his pocket to sue a multi-billion-dollar entity, right? Because he doesn't have to, because there's a law in the books that says he's entitled to his disclosures.
Name an incident where the government actually stepped in to defend a boxer.
Well, I'll tell you this, okay?
Every fight
that happens in New York State, every fight that happens in California, every fight that happens in Nevada, I could go on and on. The fighter is legally entitled, because of the Ali Act, to full financial disclosures.
Okay.
If they don't get those full financial disclosures, they don't have to go hire a lawyer. They can go to the state commission, right? And the state commission can get that for them. Why? Because it's federal law. They're entitled to the disclosures.
Okay.
I like that system. I don't want a system where fighters have to go into their pockets, hire private lawyers, just to understand the revenue structure of what the hell's going on with the event that they just participated in.
So UFC fighters like John Jones have claimed that is provided to them by the UFC as well. So again, it is, but they're not required to do it because they're not covered by the Ali Act. They're just doing it voluntarily. Maybe John Jones gets it because he's a main event guy. What about the guy on the undercard? Well, from what I've seen, we're always being told what the whole cards makes in UFC. We're being told they're guaranteed money. Are we being told what the revenue is for the UFC on the event? He tells you
Really?
what. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
because they're publicly traded
because
now.
I remember you explicitly saying that you thought that the UFC was lying about its numbers.
Here's the problem you're falling into. This is the trap that you actually just fell into. You just fell into a logic trap.
You
just fell into a lot. Here's the problem.
I want full disclosures.
Here's the problem.
Okay, what's the problem?
This is the logic trap.
Let me put Joe on camera because he's about to make a big point.
I hate doing this.
Big point requires being in the big screen.
I hate doing this to you.
Big screen. Me and Paulie, small screens because we're not making the big points.
I hate doing
Go
this
make
to
the
you.
big point.
This is going to be the ultimate checkmate.
Okay. Shout out to Checkmate Boxing.
Is now that UFC falls under the TKO umbrella, which is a publicly traded company, right?
Yep.
They have to disclose their numbers. They can't lie about their numbers. Now, let me ask you this.
Yep.
Name one boxing promotional company that is publicly traded.
I can't name one.
So the problem is that the trap you fell into right now is actually UFC does have the high ground here because they have to release accurate numbers because they're publicly traded. And it would be a conflict of interest if they don't do that to their shareholders. So they could get sued up the fucking ass. And if you notice, and I'm going to say this person's name, shout out to D-Style, because we've had this conversation too. We had this conversation before on the phone several times. And we were like, Joe, do you notice how these numbers all of a sudden, since UFC went public, the pay-per-view numbers have actually gone down now?
Okay.
Because they're publicly traded, they can't lie about their financials. So I got to give
They can't lie about their financials, but are they required?
Yes, because they're publicly traded.
Whoa.
They're publicly traded.
You don't even know what my question is. You don't know what my question is yet. I knew to connect the Boston connection with you and Dana was strong. I didn't know it was this strong.
Bro, this is
I didn't know it was this strong.
This is law. This is business law 101.
So here's the
This is business law 101. The class is in session right now. I usually charge for this information. You're getting it free.
Okay. So
you're getting it free.
Here's my question for you. Very simple, right? Very simple question. According to you, because the UFC is a publicly traded company, can I finish my question?
FCC regulations.
Can I finish my question? Man, but let me tell you guys something out there. Boston people are really, really, really loyal to each other. I'm just going to say,
we have
you
the
guys
best law schools in the country.
Right.
You know why? Because we're litigious. We know the law.
Right. Okay. So here's the question. Right? The Ali Act requires financial disclosures to the fighters, right? You're saying that the UFC can't lie about its numbers.
Yes.
Does that mean that they have to provide all numbers to their fighters? I don't think it does.
I don't think boxing has
it means
to do that
it means that they can't lie about the numbers.
Told you,
it doesn't mean that they're fully required to share all of the financials with the fighters.
Eddie Hearn said the same thing. He said, "I don't have to tell the fighter everything about the show."
I don't know if he said that.
He said that before.
Don't know if he said that.
I'll bet my life on it.
Pull up the clip. You got time. While you're looking for it, we'll continue with Paul.
If you are a fighter, right? You sign a contract for the fight with the promoter, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't have pay-per-view back end, right? What good does it give you to know how many tickets were sold for the event? How many pay-per-views were sold for it? So again, the promoter is only required to fulfill the contract that he has between himself and the fighter. Yeah. The only time that you would need full disclosure is if you're getting a percentage of the gate or the pay-per-view. If you're an undercard fighter, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have to know how many pay-per-view buys the event sold. Because if that's the case, then why wouldn't the pay-per-view numbers be released to the public? right? If they're not even released to the public and they're not
No,
required
if,
to release
if
it to
you're
the public.
but don't create a straw man argument here.
No,
Joe.
this is actually
hold up.
This is
you
actually
went your turn,
this
now
is a
my
steel
turn.
man. This is a
Your
steel man
turn,
argument.
now it's my
This
turn.
is a steel man
Your
argument.
turn, now it's my turn.
You want to rewrite
Your turn.
You want to rewrite
Your turn, now it's
contract law.
No.
Right,
No.
contract law, and you
No,
can't
no.
do that.
It's fine. You've just created a strong man argument. If a fighter is on an undercard, and he's not entitled to back end money on the pay-per-view like the main event fighters,
Exactly. Yeah.
you're right. I mean, there's no reason for him to know the financials of the pay-per-view, but you know what he is entitled to know?
His contract.
No, he's entitled to know the gate revenue.
No, he's not.
Entitled. Yes, he is.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
And that gets reported
the
to the
Ali
commission.
Act. The Ali Act.
With or
Financial
without.
disclosures.
Yeah, but with or
He's
without.
paid off. He's paid off the gate. He's not paid off the pay-per-view. He's entitled
No,
to
he's
know
not.
the
He's
gate.
not paid off the gate.
He's entitled to
He's
know
not
the
paid
gate.
off the gate.
He's entitled to know the gate.
With or without
Absolutely,
the Ali Act.
he's entitled to know the gate.
With or without the Ali Act, you could always get those numbers from the commission. Any human being can call the commission and get those numbers with or without the Ali Act. So you're wrong.
Okay. Well, the commission enforces the Ali Act. The commission
No, it doesn't.
the commission
No, it
enforces
doesn't.
the commission enforces
No one enforces the Ali Act because you have Al Heyman.
No.
Al Heyman.
We've
Al
already
Heyman is a contradiction.
You're
of the
gonna
Ali Act.
shout over me. It's fine. The provision of the Ali Act that is enforced by the commission is the financial disclosure part.
Can I ask you?
Okay, the commission also enforces the fact that the promoter and the manager can't be the same person.
No, they don't.
The commission does. Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. If you register as a manager, who do you register as a manager with?
Commission.
Thank you. Are you allowed to hold a license? And if you register as a promoter, who do you register with?
Commission.
The commission. Are you allowed to hold two licenses at the same time? Manager and promoter? Absolutely not. So they're enforcing the Ali Act.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
You're not allowed to be a promoter and a manager with the state commission. That's an
So,
enforcement of the Ali Act.
Here's where you're gonna get. Here's another checkmate move.
Checkmate Boxing. Salute to Checkmate Boxing from
Here's another
Baltimore.
checkmate move. You have Al Heyman giving fighters training expenses checks, giving fighters bonuses.
Right?
Okay. Isn't that a conflict of interest? Because if you're the promoter is actually supposed to pay the fighter.
Al Heyman's not the promoter.
But why is he paying fighters then? He should be paying the promoter, and then the promoter is supposed to pay the fighter. So that is technically a conflict of interest, and it is a violation of the Ali Act.
So
because
you're
he-
saying the fighter's purse comes from Al Heyman? Is that what you're on record as
It's-
saying? I just
you
want to
didn't-
be clear. I want
you did
everybody
not-
on Sucker Punch audience to know
Time,
specifically what Joe is saying right now.
Time. You did not see Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. post a check. I think it was for about $1.5 million or $2 million. It had Al Heyman's name on it, and he said, "Thank you, Al Heyman." He's literally you haven't heard Adrian Broner say Al Heyman has advanced me money.
Yeah,
This
he's
guy-
advanced the money.
This guy is literally writing fighters checks.
Notice
okay?
what you just said. He
Managers-
advanced the money. And
managers-
I don't want to be out here defending Al Heyman.
No,
I'm just
you-
saying Al Heyman's not a promoter.
As a manager,
He's not a
right?
promoter. He's not a manager.
As a manager, right?
Where is he licensed as a manager?
Managers and advisors, right,
Right.
get paid by fighters. They don't pay fighters. Promoters pay fighters. So if he is writing checks to people for training expenses and
Right.
bonuses and giving
Okay.
them advances,
Okay.
he essentially is acting as a promoter.
Okay, got
That's
it.
not his
Pause.
job to cut
Time
checks.
out. Time out. See, you just checkmated yourself. You said, now I go big screen. You got checkmated. You just checkmated yourself. Because everything you just said is something a sponsor can do. A sponsor can upfront somebody some money. A sponsor can pay for somebody's training expenses. A sponsor can do all of those things. So are you saying that a sponsor is also a promoter? If I have a sponsorship deal with a fighter, I'm not allowed to advance the fighter money. I'm not allowed to pay a fighter's training expenses. I'm not allowed to cut a fighter a check. There are a lot of hold up. You're still getting checkmated right now. You're still getting checkmated. You're still getting checkmated. There's plenty of people. There's people. There's plenty. Look, you know how, audience, you know how you know Joe's struggling right now? Because he needs to shout over me. Let me finish my point. Let me finish my point. The point is, and everybody here can listen to it, the point is that there are plenty of people in the sport of boxing that cut fighters' checks. Not just the manager, not just the promoter, okay? A sponsor does all of those things. I personally know fighters whose training camps are paid for by sponsors and whose sponsors advance the money. So it's not just the promoter that does that. Right back to you, Joe. Go for it, because you look a little bit frazzled right now. You look a little bit frazzled. Do we need to throw in the towel for Beeb? Let us know. If it's a towel for Beeb, put it in on number 1 in the chat. If Beeb is on point, put in the number 2. Go for it. Go for it.
Did you hear what you just said?
No, I know what I just said.
Are you saying
I know what I just said.
Are you saying Al Heyman is now Tecate? Are you saying that Al Heyman is now OnlyFans?
No. You said that cutting those checks makes you a promoter. You said cutting the checks makes you a promoter. That's what you said.
Are you gonna sit here and say Al Heyman is now a sponsor? He's not running a boxing company?
No, he says he's an advisor.
Okay.
So fighters can't have financial advisors. I'm just asking. I'm not saying I would want him to be my advisor, but are you saying that a fighter can't have a financial advisor, a business advisor? You're not allowed to do that?
When you sign a sponsorship contract with a company, okay, you're agreeing to promote that brand, and they are agreeing to pay you to promote that brand.
And sometimes they pay your fighters your training camp fees.
Sometimes they cut
you a check.
Your argument is
sometimes they cut you a check.
So what your argument is Al Heyman is cutting these fighters checks because he's sponsoring them?
My argument is that the mere fact.
Said.
No. Straw man argument. No, my argument. Just to be clear, big screen again. I'm on big screen.
You're saying Al Heyman is sponsoring fighters?
No. I never said that. I said
you did.
No, I said that the mere fact. The mere fact that he's cutting checks doesn't make him a sponsor. You see what just happened there, audience? Straw man. No, I said that the mere fact that he's cutting a check doesn't make him a promoter. That's what I said. But
so here's a checkmate. Okay. Once again, I gotta explain to you what contracts are.
Okay, go for it.
So here's where you fall flat again. Al Heyman is paying a fighter training expenses and giving them a bonus for a specific fight, whereas a sponsorship deal has nothing to do with the event. It's something that the fighter signs with the company, and he gets that undisclosed amount of money whether he fights or not. Al Heyman is paying fighters based off of whether they fight or not, right? So if you're giving someone training expenses, that's because you're paying them money for an event that they are participating in. A sponsor just gives you that money regardless of what you do. So if I sign a sponsorship deal, like
I know. Time out. Now it's my turn. I never said he's a sponsor though. No,
you did.
No, I didn't. If I did, which I didn't, but if I did, let me clarify yet again.
Was he implying that
I said that he's not. I said the mere fact that he's cutting a check doesn't make him a promoter.
Yes,
that's what I said.
He's paying a fighter for a fight. So if you're paying a fighter training expenses and a bonus, that is something that a promoder would do.
Got it.
No?
Got it.
Can you agree with that?
I'm going to answer the question. I'm going to answer the question right now.
Is that what a promoter would do, or is that
I'm going to ask you. I'm going to answer your question right now.
What a promoter would do, or is that what an advisor would do?
I'm going to answer your question right now.
Yes
when Bernard Hopkins did something that no fighter had done before, and he put goldenpalace.com on his back for one fight.
Yep.
I guess goldenpalace.com was his promoter, right? Because they paid him for that one fight. They had a deal with him for that one fight, right? They paid him for that one fight because he was fighting. So look, just to be clear, what I'm saying is on the books.
Did they pay him training expenses?
On the books.
Did they give him a fight bonus? It said on Julio Cesar Chavez's check, it literally says fight bonus on it. Maestro, please, you can't win this argument. It literally says on the check. I haven't seen
the check. I'll look for the check. Let's go back to.
It says
I'm gonna look for the check.
Bonus.
I'm gonna look for the check.
It says fight.
Okay,
bonus
Joe,
on
I get it. I'm gonna look for the check. I will look for the check. Let's continue with.
Wow, this is crazy.
Anybody that doesn't understand what the Ali Act entails, the Ali Act entails transparency. It allows fighters to be able to see the numbers, so to be able to get the numbers for the show. And it only really applies if you are in the main event. It doesn't apply for undercard fighters because you're not entitled to
anything on the
undercard except your own purse. You're just basically an expense when you're on the undercard. When you're the main guy, especially when you're the headliner, you're the A side, especially even more. The show is basically surrounding you, and when the show surrounds you, you're basically in a situation where you have a split with your promoter, and your purse is an expense as well. Your opponent's purse is an expense, but there's sponsors, there's TV money, there's casino money, there's all this other stuff. In the end, if it's a mega promotion, it rakes in a lot of money. This is how Mayweather was making all these hundreds of millions of dollars, because he was cutting out the middleman. Okay, he was cutting out the promoter. In the end, you have a split with your promoter that you're entitled. If the show makes a surplus, pay-per-views, all this other, the show makes a surplus, you're entitled to that percentage of that surplus. It's like it's yours because you are the main guy there. So in order to know what that surplus is, in order to understand that you're getting what you deserve, you have to be able to see the numbers. Now, does that mean in boxing guys don't get screwed and then promoters don't lie? I don't think so. I think promoters may still lie, but at least because of the Ali Act, you're allowed to audit your promoter. You're allowed to audit the promoter and say, you know what, I don't believe these numbers. I want to order an audit, and I want to go over everything, and I want to see if you're telling the truth. And
Can I go?
Just pausing it right there. They're entitled.
Go 3 minutes uninterrupted?
Yeah, go 3 minutes uninterrupted. Oh, by the way, I couldn't find the check. I was looking for it. I couldn't find the check. I Googled
bet my
it.
life on it.
I couldn't find the check. I'm just being honest. I Googled it. I couldn't find the check.
I would bet my life on it. He posted a check.
I cannot find a picture of this check or anything about this check. I mean, I could go to Bing. What are some of the other web search engines? Yahoo.
He literally put
fight. But I looked on Google. I don't see anything about a check.
He literally put fight expense on it. It's not even disputed. It's a fact.
Okay.
It's a fact.
I don't.
It's in the lawsuit.
I'm looking.
It's in the Golden Boy lawsuit.
I'm looking for the check. I can't find it. But go back to you, Joe. Joe, you wanted 3 minutes uninterrupted. Go for it.
Daniel Cormier, John Jones, Conor McGregor, Israel Adesanya, all have contracts where they get a pay-per-view percentage. They've never said that financial information for the event was withheld with them. So again, when you look at main event fighters, right, currently now in the UFC, no one's complaining that they're getting screwed. That Kung Lee incident, when was that lawsuit? When was that lawsuit taken? What was it in regards to? How many years ago were the fights?
You're giving up your 3 minutes uninterrupted, just letting you know if you want me to answer that question.
Good.
Okay. So I have it here because I did do this research. So Kung Lee, a former UFC fighter, filed lawsuit against the Ultimate Fighting Championship in 2014. The lawsuit was part of a larger class action antitrust case brought by several fighters against the UFC, alleging anti-competitive practices and unfair treatment of fighters. Here are the key points of Kung Lee's lawsuit and the broader case. Number one, anti-competitive practices. The lawsuit alleged that the UFC engaged in anti-competitive practices to maintain a monopoly in the mixed martial arts industry. This included suppressing fighters' earnings, preventing fighters from negotiating with other promotions, and even controlling the market for MMA events. Number 2, unfair fighter compensation. Lee and other plaintiffs claimed that the UFC underpaid fighters and took an excessive share of revenues compared to other major sports organizations. They argued that the fighters were denied a fair share of the profits generated by their performances. Number 3, exclusive contracts. The lawsuit criticized the UFC's use of long-term exclusive contracts that restricted fighters from competing in other promotions, even if they were not being actively booked for fights by the UFC. Number 4, retaliation and defamation. Kung Lee specifically alleged that the UFC retaliated against them for speaking out about fighter pay and treatment. That's something that Stitch Duran also says happened to him, by the way. After Lee criticized the UFC's practices, he claimed the organization defamed him by falsely accusing him of using performance-enhancing drugs following a fight in 2014. Lee was suspended and publicly criticized by UFC officials, but he maintained his innocence and later had the suspension overturned due to insufficient evidence. And then it goes on and on and on. It talks about the outcome of the lawsuit. I don't know. That doesn't seem like somebody I want running boxing personally, but Joe, go for it.
Can you click on that link that I posted in the chat for you?
Yes.
And can I get an apology?
I don't see a link in the chat. What
No,
link?
I put it in the chat.
Link.
I'll put it in there again right now. Here's the link in the chat. Boom.
Link in the chat here.
I don't know if it's coming up.
Link in the chat. Okay. There we go. Okay. Lawsuit against Al Heyman. I can't click it from in here, Joe, because I can just highlight it. So you're going to have to send it to me as a private chat. Anyways, so you want to continue with what you were saying?
There's a photo of a handwritten check from Heyman LLC to Chavez Company for $1.75 million. The memo line of the check reads, purse, 4/18/15. Chavez fought Andres Fonfora at the StubHub Center in California. The transaction could hardly be more explicit. Heyman paid nearly $2 million. Let me see if I could screen share this.
Screen
Let me
share it.
screen share this to you, and I would like an apology as well, if I can.
What am I apologizing for?
For questioning that if I was telling the truth or not.
No, I wasn't questioning that you were telling the truth.
Okay, so let's look. Can we make this big?
You're gonna have to do it. You're controlling it from your computer.
So I can make this big. Is there a way I can make this bigger? Trying to think. How would I make this bigger? If I do this, maybe? Yeah, here we go.
There you go.
All right, so let's read this here. This was the lawsuits against Al Heyman continue at it. And this was from 2015. And I think Chavez actually posted the check and then took it down because of this lawsuit. And this is actually in the lawsuit. Okay, in its lawsuit, Top Rank alleged that Heyman is violating the Muhammad Ali Act, Boxing Reform Act, by serving as both the manager and a promoter. To support that allegation, it posted a photo that boxer Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. posted and later deleted to the social media website Instagram. It was a photo of a handwritten check from Heyman Sports LLC to Chavez's company for $1.75 million. The memo line of the check reads, purse, 4/18/15. Chavez fought Andre Fonfora at the StubHub Center in Carson, California on that night.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So that's not a sponsorship, my friend. The transaction could hardly be more explicit. Heyman paid nearly $2 million of Chavez's purse for the first fight against Fonfora. Attorney Daniel Petroselli wrote in Top Rank's lawsuit, paying the purse is a classic promoter's responsibility, as I fucking said 1,000 times during this video, which I was told that was wrong, but I was right. And telling Lee Chavez Jr.'s
I never said
Instagram
that it's
post
not
was
the
removed
promoter's
minutes after it
responsibility
appeared
to
on the
pay a purse. I never said
and
that.
I remember seeing the actual check.
I never said that
All
the
right?
promoter doesn't
So
pay
again,
the purse. I never said that.
You can apologize. You want to apologize now, or do you want to continue to say I was not telling the truth, or imply
I never
that
said
I was
you
not
weren't telling the
You were
truth.
implying I wasn't telling the truth, though. You implied it.
No, I just said that I never saw the check, and I never saw the check.
In your opinion, is that a violation of the Ali Act? Yes or no?
It's a violation of the Ali Act if he's got a manager's license, which I don't know if he does. You can't be a manager and a promoter at the same time. Where is Al
Does he have
Heyman?
a promoter's license?
Huh?
Does Al Heyman have a promoter's license?
I don't think he. I don't think he
I
does.
know he
no.
doesn't. I know he doesn't, and I know he doesn't have a manager's license.
Right.
So
So,
he has-
where's the violation? Where's the violation of the Ali Act?
Are you kidding me, Maestro?
No, I'm not kidding you.
Are you trolling me right now?
Look, I'm asking you.
Did you read the article? A promoter is supposed to pay a fight purse, not an
Right.
advisor. He violated the Muhammad Ali Act, and nothing happened. You have to concede the point, Maestro. He violated the Muhammad Ali Act, and they did nothing about it because nobody fucking cares about the Muhammad Ali Act.
Question:
Yes or no? Did he violate the Muhammad Ali Act?
If he's a licensed licensed manager, he violated the Ali Act.
He's not a promoter, Maestro. He's not supposed to cut checks for fight purses. That's the promoter's job.
Under
Jesus.
the Ali
Oh
Act,
my
again,
God.
I can't listen.
Oh.
You're asking me to say that somebody violated the law, correct?
Oh my God.
You're asking me to say that he violated the law.
This isn't a good faith discussion right now. It's not. It's not a good faith discussion any longer. Who pays the fighter?
The promoter pays the fighter.
Does he have a promoter's license?
He does not.
Should he have paid the fighter for the fight purse?
The promoter should have paid the
So,
fighter.
Did he violate the Muhammad Ali Act?
I don't know where it says in the Ali Act that he can't pay the fighter. That's not the Ali Act. Just because he does something doesn't mean it's in violation of the law. That's what I'm trying to explain here.
That's a violation of the Ali Act because he's acting as an advisor and he's paying a fighter without having a promoter's license.
Is it if
you know what anyone can do right now, Ben? I could just say that I'm just going to randomly pay a fighter, right? And not even have a promoter's license, right? And that now I can influence that event because I'm putting money into it. You know what this is like? This is like a lobbyist in politics.
I think he's circumventing the law. I don't think he's violated the law. That's the difference. I think he's circumvented the law. Do I agree with his practices? Am I defending the PBC? No.
You don't
But
think
is
that's
he?
violation?
Can I finish what I'm? Just let me finish.
He's paying the fighter directly.
Just let me
and
finish.
He's acting as an advisor.
Let me finish what I'm saying. Okay. What I'm saying is, he's clearly circumventing the law. He's circumventing the spirit of the law. But he's clearly found a loophole. I think the way he set up his business is to circumvent the Ali Act. Am I saying he violated it? No. Did he circumvent it? I think he did. I think the way he's set himself up as an advisor, as his financial person for his fighters, is to get around the Ali Act. Now, if he was a licensed manager, which he is not, it would be a different story, but he's purposely done this to circumvent the law. Do I think that the law should be enforced better? Absolutely. Do I think that this loophole should be closed? Absolutely. Do I think that he's acted as a promoter and as a licensed manager under a state commission and has violated the law? I don't. Now, you could say that's grasping at straws or whatever the case may be. I'm not here to defend Al Heyman. I'm not here to defend his circumventing of the Ali Act. But this is a clear loophole, and I think the Ali Act needs to be fixed to get around this to close this loophole. But it's a definite loophole that he's exploited. I don't think that's a bad faith argument at all. That's how I see it.
Maestro.
We got Hamed here.
What is the difference between an advisor and a manager technically?
The advisor and manager difference comes down to a fiduciary responsibility to the fighter and the fact that one needs to be licensed by a state commission
There you go.
and the other does not. A manager has to be licensed by a state commission and needs to do things in accordance with the law. You know what it's like? It's like this. Let me put it to you this way, right? If you are driving a car, right, and you commit an infraction and you're licensed, right? Yeah, you've done that as somebody who's driving a car and who's licensed, and you get stopped by the police, whatever. If you're driving around a car and you don't have a driver's license, right, and nobody stops you, right? Yeah, you've circumvented the law. You're getting around the law. You're probably breaking the law, but I can't say that you've gone out and got a driver's license. You're a licensed driver, and that you're going to lose points on your license.
So
he's totally circumvented the Ali Act. That's clear. I agree with that.
Could we agree that technically an advisor and a manager are essentially the same thing, but the only difference is the manager actually has a license?
Yes, he is an unlicensed. Actually, you know what? That analogy I just gave, forget it. You know what it's like? Let me take it to my own profession. I'm a teacher, right? I'm licensed by the state of New York to be a teacher, and in other jurisdictions as well. You have all kind of people out there in this city that work at charter schools, that work at private schools. They call themselves teachers. They've never been to an education college. They've never been sat state exams. They've never been certified to teach. They call themselves teachers. I don't call themselves teachers. They call themselves that. So essentially, to me, an advisor is probably a manager who's unlicensed that takes a smaller percentage and sets up deals and business arrangements and this and that. But they're not on the books as a licensed manager.
But essentially, this guy is functioning as a manager and a promoter at the same time.
I agree. He's circumventing the law.
So all Dana White would have to do, according to you, is just relinquish his promoter's license and hire Tom Brown to promote his events. And he could circumvent the Muhammad Ali Act too.
No, he wouldn't be able to do it because with the Ali Act, he wouldn't be able, as the head of UFC, to run his own ranking systems and to be. Because here's the other thing: this is the big problem for the UFC as well when it comes to the Ali Act.
Dana White doesn't do the rankings. There's an independent body that does the rankings
within the UFC, not Dana White. The UFC.
Who does the UFC rankings?
So I'm pretty sure the UFC does them. And why is Dana always on microphone saying that this guy's going to fight that guy and he's going to make it happen and the best fight the best?
Why does the WBC put Dillian White as the mandatory contender, rank him number one, and then have Dominic Brazil fight in the mandatory?
I don't know. But number two.
Dana White does not do the rankings.
Okay.
Doesn't do the rankings.
I meant UFC. Number two, the problem that they have is that you can't be the body that gives out the championship belt and the promoter under the Ali Act.
He was going to create his own belt.
Yeah, but he can't.
Why?
He's not allowed to under the Ali Act.
How? What does that fall under?
You're not allowed to be the promoter and the sanctioning body under the Ali Act. You're not allowed to be that.
So then Turki Al-Sheikh is violating the Ali Act.
Turki Al-Sheikh hasn't done that in the United States. That's the other thing. The Ali Act only applies to the United States. It doesn't apply to business outside the United States. In Saudi Arabia, in England, Turkey can do whatever he wants, especially in Saudi Arabia.
All Dana White would have to do to circumvent this is what Dana White's going to probably do to circumvent the Muhammad Ali Act.
Yeah.
Turki Al-Sheikh may get a promoter's license, and he may promote the event. Or Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White are smart, and they know they're not dummies. So you know what they'll do? They'll just follow the Al Heyman blueprint. And Al Heyman
has created a loophole that he's been exploiting for years. I agree with you.
This is why you just proved to me that this Muhammad Ali Act is not worth the paper it's printed on. But you know why? Because all you have to do is just not get a license.
Yes.
And if I had $1 billion, I can open up a company.
Yes.
I can hire a promoter to promote my events.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So would you agree?
It would be like, again, it's like why go get a driver's license, Joe, if I can go out and drive a car with no driver's. By the way, this happens in New York City a lot. You got a lot of people driving on these paper plates or driving mopeds and little scooters without a motorcycle license. Why would I go out and get a driver's license, right, to be an official driver who can lose points on my license if I can just go out and be an unlicensed driver or unlicensed motorcycle rider and nobody's going to enforce the law?
So we can.
The Alley Act needs to be enforced, is what I'm saying. But it does enforce one thing. Okay. At least it enforces the financial aspect of it through the state commissions.
There are UFC fighters.
That's the only thing I think it does a good job at doing at this point.
There are UFC fighters, just like Paulie said in boxing, the main event fighters in UFC now, and I could say probably for the last decade or so, or even longer than that, probably at least the last decade or so, are getting their financial numbers because they have their contracts state they get a percentage of the pay-per-view. So they have to know how many pay-per-views that the event's doing. So again, this allegation that every single fighter every single main event fighter, and I'm not saying you're saying this, Paulie's implying this in my opinion, that every single main event fighter in the UFC is not being provided with the financial numbers of the event, which I do not believe, because if they're getting a percentage of the pay-per-view, then they have to know those numbers by law.
Yeah,
it's a contract.
A good person to probably ask about this would be someone like Francis Ngannou, who's no longer with the UFC.
And he never claimed that he wasn't getting the information. He never.
No,
claimed
what he was claiming. His argument was more, if memory serves me well, about like the predatory nature of the contracts and the control he was under. And the same thing Stitch has said about fighters not being able to essentially get their own sponsorships and different things outside of the UFC's control, right? Predatory contract is, I think, the
unconscionable contract.
So, yeah, there you go. You're the legal guy. So, look, Paulie said what Paulie said. I don't always agree.
I gotta check my blood pressure after the show. You fucking triggered me today.
You're out here.
You triggered me today.
You're out here wanting me to be on camera saying that Al Heyman's breaking the law. I don't want to get sued. I can only say what I know to be true. I legitimately, Joe, I wasn't trying to like get you upset or anything like that. You know that's not what I do. But I can't say something that I don't believe to be true or that I don't have any evidence of. I can't say that he's broken the Ali Act. What I can say is that he's circumvented the act totally by not going out and getting a manager's license, not going out and getting a promoter's license, and basically being an unlicensed advisor that cuts check to fighters. How I mean, you're not in violation of the act if you're not playing within the games of the act, which require you go out to be a licensed promoter and a licensed manager.
All right,
That's all I was saying. It wasn't a non-answer to your question. It was a specific answer to your question.
Let's recap the whole argument.
Yeah.
Essentially, he's breaking the foundation of the Muhammad Ali Act, but he's able to do so.
Yes.
Because he's not licensed as a manager or a
exactly.
promoter.
We agree 100%.
So
100% we agree.
So we can agree now that Dana White can follow the same blueprint. Dana White and Turki Al-Sheikh can follow the same blueprint that Al Heyman had followed, and just not get a promoter's license in boxing, and just not get a manager's license in boxing.
Could he do
the same thing? Yes or no?
Yes, I think so. But here's the thing. I don't even know if that's not already happening. For instance, right, on these Riyadh season cards, right? If the card, for instance, we're going to talk about these cards on hour number 2 and extend this discussion about Dana White and the UFC as well.
They're going to be getting the medical bill today, just so you know.
Okay, here's the thing. So believe it or not, which we're going to talk about, I was at both press conferences this week in New York City. The Fatal Fury cards, right? The card taking place in New York City. Do you know who the promoter is?
I actually don't know the promoter.
I'll tell you the promoter.
Is it
the New
Daniel
York
Hoyer
City,
one of them?
the New York City card is being promoted by Matchroom, right?
Okay.
Do you know who
thing?
Yes. Do you know who's going to be promoting the Canelo card in Riyadh the following day? By the way,
is Eddie Hearn promoting that one too?
No, Queensbury, right? So
really?
Yes. So
PBC's not involved in that.
No,
all.
they're the licensed promoters,
okay,
right?
Right. I didn't know this.
If they're the licensed promoters, right? Now, if Turkey cuts fighters checks, right, and says this is a bonus, I really like the way you fought, right? And you ask me, oh, Maestro, isn't Turkey breaking the Ali Act by doing that? No, I don't think he would be breaking the act because he's not the promoter of the event. He's not a licensed promoter. He's not a licensed manager, right? So I would never say to that question, oh, he's breaking the Ali Act. He's not a promoter. He's not a manager. Is he cutting checks? I don't know. Maybe he is. Maybe he isn't.
My argument
that's all I was saying. Just to be clear.
My argument would be fundamentally, I do believe Al Heyman has broken the Ali Act, but
fundamentally, is Turkey a promoter? Yes or no?
Yes.
But he's not a licensed promoter.
Not a licensed. So
therefore, how can he break the Ali Act? You see how these loopholes work?
So the Ali Act is a flawed instrument.
It's a toothless tiger. The only thing it does is enforce financial disclosures. Because as long as somebody says they're an advisor, or as somebody says they're a sponsor, because don't forget, Turkey sponsors the events, right? Through Riyadh Season, through Sella, right? He's a sponsor, right? As long as you're acting as an advisor or a sponsor, you can totally circumvent the Ali Act.
So
That's
toothless.
The point I was trying to make.
So it's toothless.
Yes, except for the financial disclosures.
You like that part of it.
Yes, I like that part of it.
And I think that
HLD, I agree with you 100%. HLD, it's not correct. But it's me pointing out that it's a loophole just points out that it's a loophole.
So what you're saying, my argument would be even that component of the Muhammad Ali Act is irrelevant, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
And hear me out here.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a main event fighter, and in your contract you're supposed to get a percentage of the gate and/or the pay-per-view revenue.
Yep.
Contractually, the promoter would have to reveal that information to you. If you were to take that to court with or without the Muhammad Ali Act, you would lose. You see what I'm saying? So even in that aspect, Maestro, I still think that the Muhammad Ali Act is useless.
The only thing is you wouldn't have to go out of pocket. This is the only argument I was making earlier about this. You wouldn't have to go out of pocket, file your own lawsuit, hire a promoter, a lawyer. The state would do that for you. The state of New York, the state of Nevada, etc., because they'd have to under the law.
You're saying under the law, if the Muhammad Ali Act is violated, then the state is required.
The state already does it. What I'm saying is the state already does it automatically. They do it.
The state would then step in, is what you're saying, and
If
the fighter brought that to their attention.
Yes, the state pursues it. A state attorney would do it, and that saves a fight. If you're a fighter, you don't want to pay hundreds.
That's how it works. Then that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's the one thing I like about it.
But the rest of the act is useless.
100% as it currently stands. Fair because enough. It allows for the circumvention of the law. All right, good. Any last words, Joe, before we go to hour number 2?
No, I'm just gonna have to cool down with the blood pressure. Fucking triggered me today.
It was a good faith discussion. It was a good debate, everybody. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you remember, Joe Habib, this channel, Ringside Reporter Live, goes live every Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. late night boxing for you guys over there in the UK. Great way to end your weekend, all right, and prepare for the long work week ahead is to watch Joe Habib, Ringside Reporter Live, right here on this channel with the one and only Eric Lorda. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you over there for hour number 2, where we're going to talk Fatal Fury, Ring Magazine. We got a lot of questions about the Ring Magazine's role in all of this. Are they a promoter at this point? Are they a PR outlet, or are they still a journalistic entity. All right, and I'm gonna just straight up say it. I think Dana White's a double agent. I don't think he's got the interest of boxing at heart. And we've got a mole in the camp right now, so to speak, as it relates to Dana coming over into boxing. I'm gonna spell that all out. Let's go to hour number 2. Sucker Punch. Hit the link. It's in the chat, and it should also be in the description box to this video. We'll see you on the next one. Take care. Well, we'll see you in 2 minutes.